Donald Trump just declared war on Capital One. Here's why.
Multiple capital entries! Multiple capital entries!
You see, not long ago, Capital One and many other banks and brands decided to part ways with the entire Trump organization.
Some of America's biggest corporations are distancing themselves from U.S. lawmakers in the wake of last week's Capitol riot.
You have banks saying that they don't want to have any ties to him.
Now the tables have turned, and Capital One needs him for one major reason. In this video, I'm going to explain 3 things you need to know about this lawsuit right now and how it may affect you. So let's get started. What's the first thing you need to know right now? The reason behind all of this. Why is Donald Trump suing Capital One? So the story is that the Trump organization is accusing Capital One for being woke and debanking them. And this just happened on Friday, alleging that the bank closed its accounts over woke beliefs and political and social motivations. They're also saying that the Trump organization and Eric Trump, one of Donald Trump's sons, has been clients of Capital One for decades, holding millions of dollars at the bank, the lawsuit noted. But on March 8th, 2021, Capital One notified the plaintiffs that hundreds of bank accounts they used or controlled would be closed on June 7, 2021 without any explanation as to why. Now, we all know why. It's the same reason why other banks and companies separated themselves from the organization as well. Watch this.
Some of America's biggest corporations are distancing themselves from U.S. lawmakers in the wake of last week's Capitol riot. Ed O'Keefe reports more than a dozen Fortune 500 companies have suspended political donations.
On Monday, Hallmark Cards Company asked for a refund from Republican Senators Josh Hawley and Roger Marshall, who received a combined $12,000. American Express told employees Monday they're withholding donations from lawmakers who voted to subvert the presidential election results and disrupt the peaceful transition of power. Other major firms like Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Facebook, Google, and Microsoft are going farther, saying they'll withhold all political contributions from members of both parties.
President Trump's hometown is cutting ties with him in a move that could cost him millions of dollars in revenue.
The city of New York is severing all contracts with the Trump organization.
And that leads us to the second thing you need to know. Why right now is the perfect time for a lawsuit? Real quick, be sure to download our free ebook today. All you got to do is scan this QR code right here or click the link in the description below. Now back to the video. There are 2 major reasons why right now is the perfect time for a lawsuit against Capital One. Number 1 is the fact that the Trump organization literally just saved Capital One millions, if not billions of dollars by shutting down a lawsuit that was brought up against them and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Check this out.
Now, the new federal lawsuit that accuses Capital One of deliberately underpaying interest to millions of customers. Our chief business correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis, is here. Got those details? Good morning.
Absolutely. Good morning, Robin. Guys, nice to see you. And you probably know their ad campaign that ends with the question, what's in your wallet? Well, the government says millions of Capital One customers should have a lot more in their wallets. The Consumer Federal Protection Bureau alleges Capital One cheated its customers out of more than $2 billion in interest by creating 2 nearly identically named savings accounts, 360 Savings and 360 Performance Savings. The difference, that Performance Savings account offered interest rates 14 times higher than the other one. The government accuses Capital One of misleading customers about the higher interest performance account and even banning employees from telling existing customers about it. So they could have switched and made more interest. They didn't tell them, according to the government.
Just today, they dropped a suit against Capital One that accused the bank of cheating customers out of $2 billion. What do you think about this? One would think $2 billion is the kind of thing the government would like to bring in.
Well, it's funny you say this because this is exactly the type of law enforcement that I thought we were trying to do to save people money. You know, we accused Capital One and had all the evidence that they illegally withheld $2 billion of interest. And what did we learn today? They got a corporate pardon from the new CFPB, and they pardoned other companies too. accused of ripping off American consumers.
So as you can see, the Trump organization is essentially playing chess. They see themselves in a leveraged position. I'm just stating the facts, okay? And it just so happened that one side just so happens to be the president of the United States. So essentially, it looks like Capital One owes the Trump organization a favor for saving them so much money. And that brings us to the third thing that you need to know. And that is why Capital One will either settle or potentially lose their merger with Discover Card. You see, I know many of you all may have forgotten, but Capital One is literally in the middle. Well, not even really in the middle, about 90% done with the merger between them and Discover Card. This is set to be a $35 billion deal, and it's going to put Capital One as the third largest credit card provider in the United States behind Visa and MasterCard. And this merger has already been under public scrutiny, okay? A lot of people don't want this to happen. But with it being so close to the finish line, it's going to need someone to push it through.
If you're a Capital One or Discover customer, you're going to want to listen up because this next story affects you. The companies took major steps, or a single major step yesterday, toward a massive $30 billion merger that could shake up the entire credit card industry. Shareholders from both companies voted in support of the plan, and now the next hurdle is federal approval. If passed, that deal is likely to make Capital One the third largest credit card lender in America, jumping up ahead of Citi, but still well behind JP Morgan Chase and American Express. I had no idea. So what does all of this actually mean for you? CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady is here with some answers. Kelly, good morning. The companies want this. Is it good for customers?
Well, that's kind of the really big thing. Let me just sort of show you how this would work. So you would have Capital One, which is a card issuer, combined with Discover, which is a payment network. That's important because a payment network is kind of the infrastructure that all of our credit card transactions happen on right now. Capital One currently uses Visa or MasterCard. That's why when you hear a Capital One Visa or a Capital One MasterCard.
I've seen those commercials.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the payment network that's underlying it. Visa and MasterCard, they have about 85% of the network there as of 2023. They have that on lock. For Capital One then to buy Discover and then own that, they would move all over their business over there, and then it would sort of be this one big behemoth.
So what does that mean for people who have, a Capital One card or Discover card? And what does it mean for people who don't? Is this having a larger impact on the industry?
Okay, so 4 things to keep in mind. If you have a Capital One card, this could impact how you use your card internationally. So I go back to that payment network system. Discover isn't as widely accepted internationally as a Visa or MasterCard. So that change could impact things. You are going to have more access to locations. Capital One has a lot more physical locations than Discover. Both of them have very wide ATM networks. So now you would be able to visit all of those different places. Something I always focus on, rewards programs. Okay, how were these
you a points
two?
Girl?
Oh, girl, I am such a points girl. That's how I travel. But how are these two programs going to combine from Discover and Capital One? Are the miles going to be one-to-one? You could also see interest rates and fees
That's what
go
I was
up.
waiting for. Oh, go
yes.
up. I thought you were going to say go down.
It could be either. So when you have two companies that come together and they make a really big company, there's less competition. So traditionally, you see interest rates go up and fees go up. But in this case, analysts that I've talked to have argued that because they're going to try and take a run, as you said, at JP Morgan Chase and Amex, they're going to want to try and give you better deals, entice you in the door. So that's kind of the piece to watch, which way it goes.
By suing Capital One right now, Donald Trump is putting Capital One in a tough position. You see, this is real simple. If this Trump case gains any more traction, this is going to paint Capital One as having a political bias. And if that's the case, it's most definitely going to make the merger more difficult to close. At the same time, the Trump organization is using this as a bargaining chip. This means if Capital One simply settles this lawsuit, they may get friendlier treatment during the merger process. In short, Donald Trump has turned Capital One's rejection into his own leverage. So what do you think? Is Trump using this as a chess move, or is this just another lawsuit? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. We'll see you guys on the next video.